Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes us of those who hear and follow in the best possible way. Subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us of the Saaleheen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants us the best of knowledge of the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu and gives us the best of tawfiq to follow it. Today inshallah, Bab al-Mujahada, chapter number 11, Riyadh as-Saaleheen, al-Mujahada. Mujahada in the Arabic language, as been explained here by Shaykh al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah, comes from juhd. Jahada, mujahada. He says that juhd refers to a person striving for something. That's what this chapter is about. The chapter of striving. But what are we striving for and what are we striving with? He says striving and mujahada is of two types. Striving in and of himself and striving for others. So al-mujahada here refers to a person striving in himself and striving to benefit others. Now here I just want to mention one thing here. Quite often a lot of people talk about jihad, mujahada. The asl of jihad comes from mujahada. If a person strives in himself, fulfills what is wajib, completes his iman, completes his akhlaq, stays away from haram, stays away from bad manners, that person now is making jihad. And for the technical term of jihad, combat, etc., that person is best equipped for it. As for what you see, people on whatever channels that you look at are talking about takfir and all these different things, you can clearly see that the concept of mujahada is not there for a lot of people. Yet they are talking about some very important issues, yet they haven't made jihad in themselves. So now the true understanding here now is that Islam will only spread by individuals who have made mujahada themselves. Hence the Shaykh is saying here, mujahada is of two types. In yourself primarily, and then when you want to try and benefit other people. But then he goes on to say, rahimahullah, this mujahada will never be complete except if he has rectified it himself in the first place. Meaning in himself, in his heart, in his soul, like we have said, in his aqeedah, in his iman. So he needs to rectify and purify, and the more he does that, the greater the mujahada. That's what the Shaykh is saying here. So what is he striving with? What is this mujahada? He says, number one, working hard to complete good deeds. Because this is the meaning of mujahada. A person works hard. And working hard to do good deeds, the Shaykh says, it's difficult, it's hard, it's heavy. And it requires consistent hard work. Consistent hard work. Not hard work just sometimes, just in Ramadan, etc. This person making mujahada. But then the second part of mujahada is that he avoids and resists bad deeds. And he is saying that this is part of mujahada because these bad deeds quite often are appealing. It's to do with his nafs, got to do with desires, got to do with shubuhat, etc. So mujahada is when a person is working hard to complete good ones, and he is consistent on them despite how heavy and difficult they are, and he is avoiding and resisting bad ones no matter how tempting they are. Then he says, rahimahullah, there is no doubt that every single one of us want to attain goodness for ourselves. Muslim, non-Muslims alike, even animals if you look at it. Every single one of us wants some kind of goodness to come to ourselves. However, what this chapter teaches us, that this goodness will not be attained, will not be preserved, will not be deemed as being successful unless if a person works hard. Especially at the fact that the Shaykh is saying here, now that he's saying this in his time, that we have people now who have no desire to work, but they have a desire to attain reward. Hence the reminder for mujahada is very important. Then he gives us a couple of examples. Number one, al-ikhlas. Every single one of us want to attain sincerity. They want to attain the rewards of being somebody who is sincere. However, the Shaykh says, أَمْرُهُ عَظِيمٌ وَشَاقٌ جِدٌّ. There is no doubt that a person constantly trying to purify and be sincere and checking his intention is very difficult. Hence, many of the ulama of the Salaf, they have said, مَا جَهَدْتُ نَفْسِي عَلَى شَيْءٍ وَجَاهَدًا عَلَى الْإِخْلَاصِ. There's nothing that I have worked hard, persevered to try and purify and rectify harder than rectifying al-ikhlas. So now this person knows the importance of ikhlas. He knows the reward for ikhlas. He now starts working hard to be from the people who have al-ikhlas. But then, as we said, mujahada has two parts to it. Then he has to avoid anything which is going to nullify or corrupt it or distract him from that mujahada, such as riyah, such as the love of the dunya, etc. So from this example, the Shaykh has given us al-ikhlas. The person makes al-mujahada to do good deeds, to attain its rewards. So he's being consistent on it, working hard with it. But then he's also mindful that there are things that could corrupt it. This is the constant mujahada. Gives us another example. A lot of people will want to do good deeds, so they'll start doing good deeds. And this requires work, this requires effort. Some people are more accustomed to doing good deeds, whereas other people will do good deeds and then leave them. And some people will do good deeds temporarily. Hence the Shaykh says, when it comes to mujahada, people have different levels of tolerance. To the point he said, Najid ba'd al-nas, you will find, or we will find some people, كَأَنَّمَا وُدِعَ عَلَى ظَهْرِ جَبَلٌ. When you try and remind him to do good deeds and exert himself and be consistent in that, it is as if you are placing a mountain on his back. So these people don't have that mujahada because they end up leaving it. And some people, at the same time, will have the tolerance to persevere despite it being difficult. For this person, it's really hard, like it's a mountain. For this person, it becomes easy. So now here the Shaykh is saying, this is from the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it also requires a person training himself and programming himself. He says, don't you see Salat al-Fajr, a number of people, they wake up and it's easy for them and they've got a routine in doing so, whereas other people will never wake up for Fajr, and other people who are far worse than that will stay up late doing haram, socializing, etc., and that's easy for them. But when it's time to wake up for Fajr, it's difficult. Hence the Shaykh says, this is mujahada in your nafs, in yourself. Then he said mujahada, the second type, is in your community and the people around you. This requires mujahada for a number of reasons. Number one, part of khair is that you spread that khair. Being sincere to goodness is that you want that goodness to spread and you want goodness for other people as well. But it also requires mujahada in a different angle or from a different perspective, is that you now know that it requires you to be patient because it will be difficult. It will be difficult sometimes for you to constantly remind people, to try and make them understand. You might even experience harm. Mujahada for other people is very important because of the spread of that khair. But it can also be important, the Shaykh is saying, because some people depend on you. And they might need for you to have that mujahada so that they will have the mujahada. And if you don't have it, they will fall themselves. Either way, this introduction is very beneficial, by the way. We haven't looked at any ayat or any hadith from the chapter from Imam al-Nawawi. This introduction from Shaykh al-Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, I've even translated all of it. I'm just giving you a gist of it. If you can, I don't know if it's been translated fully in English, I would definitely recommend for you to go back to it. But here, rahimahullah, he has said now, mujahada is two types. All of this now here, when the person has al-mujahada, reminding ourselves that the person, what we're talking about mujahada, is rectifying himself, becoming obedient, staying away from disobedient, and being persistent in that. recognizing that obedience that he wants in himself has things which could corrupt the obedience as well. It's not just about this is right and that is wrong. It is about preserving the right by staying away from the wrong. But then he says, rahimahullah, that mujahada is also for other people. You can't just want khair for yourself and not for others. And some people, like he has just said there, are dependent on you having mujahada or you reminding them. All of this, then he says, is a sign that a person is working hard. If this you can recognize, if this kind of describes you, then realize that you are mujahada. But also realize, the Shaykh says, and he gives an example of the munafiqun, not having al-mujahada in yourself and for other people is a characteristic of the munafiqun. And you'll find many ayat where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the munafiqun, not only not having sincerity and being consistent and persevering and doing good deeds for themselves, but they used to put people off doing good deeds and mock people from doing good deeds. Therefore, the Shaykh is saying, working hard, al-mujahada is very important in yourself and for others. And when it comes to others, there's one other point that he mentions. This is actually very important. When it comes to working for other people, there are two categories. Number one, it's connected to ilm and reminding and teaching. So your mujahada for other people might just be that you give them a gentle reminder every now and then. That you wake them up for fajr. That you tell them that it's time for salah. You remind them that, the TV's got some music on, put it on mute or something like that. They know what it is, but that's now your mujahada is just a simple reminder. But sometimes working for others, the mujahada with other people could be physical. With the poor, the needy, etc. Therefore, then this is now the conclusion. He says, Islam is a religion of striving. Islam is a religion of striving, which is very important actually. If you look at major religions of the world, most of them don't have a mujahid. Most of them will say, as long as you believe in something, or you come from some kind of a lineage, or you go every now and then, that's sufficient. You are now a good practice of that religion. Here is teaching us every single moment of your life actually has al-mujahada in it. But the more you strive, the closer you get to Allah. The closer you get to Allah, the more honor you have in the life of this dunya and the akhirah. And then he says something which is really important. And again, like I said, I would read it word for word, but I don't want to make it lengthy. This is very important. He says, Al-Islam din al-haq, din al-ulu. Islam is the correct religion. Islam is the upright religion. Islam is the overpowering and apparent religion above all other religions. فَلَا تَهِنُوا وَتَدْعُوا إِلَى السَّلْمِ وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ وَاللَّهُ مَعَكُمْ. Allah is with you whilst you have the upper hand. So the Shaykh is saying here now, and like I said, it goes on. But what the Shaykh is saying is, when you have al-mujahada, you have ulu from Allah. So Allah is honoring you. You have izzah and you have a status with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what's become sad is that a lot of people, they don't have that concept of mujahada or that need for mujahada, that sincerity towards mujahada. So they will say you don't need to be extreme in following a religion, you don't need to constantly be doing good deeds, or they might even say that following Islam is backwards, or that they will try and hide their religion. And they will say, I still want to follow Islam, but I'm worried what other people will say. The Shaykh is saying here, when the person has al-mujahada upon Islam, that person is honored, that person will have the truth through him being made apparent, so he has nothing to hide, he has no reason to compromise. Inshallah, what we'll do is we'll look at this chapter bi'awnillah next week in more detail. The author gives us a number of ayat. This chapter is actually quite lengthy, so we'll be talking about mujahada for a number of sessions bi'awnillah. There's a number of hadith as well, in which the author will give us encouragement to hasten and to be steadfast in doing good deeds and staying away from bad ones. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He grants us the best of tawfiq, and that He makes us of those who hear and follow in the best possible way, so that we be from the Saaleheen. Allahu a'lam wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi.